in Leesburg. So this is back in the same zone as Mineola, my first area. So I'd already been in that zone for 6 months, and I ended up staying for another 7. And so I got to know this area super well. It was like super country, at least as much as I'd ever seen in my whole mission. Just widespread, a huge area. So we had our own car, and rarely would have had to bike, except that when I got there, our car had been like smashed. The story, my companion and the previous companion that were there were just driving, and they were like flying up this hill to go to a members, and this wild pig ran out into the road, and so they just drilled it, and dented the car. Like no real damage to the car, but the mission likes to have their cars looking good, so the fender was hanging off and all this. So we had to go get it repaired, and they didn't give us like another car or anything, and so we had to bike and walk. And it's like our area was structured, so it was like 3 cities, and it was all basically connected. But we lived up here. Man, I don't remember the name of the city. There's Leesburg, and then there's like Fruit Heights. I don't remember. And then the city that we lived in, I don't remember its name for whatever reason right now. But it was like, so just one highway connected all 3 of them, and there was like, that was the only way to get down to people. And so we ended up being without a car for a couple of weeks. And so we had to walk around like our whole area and bike. And we tried walking and biking down a couple of times, but it was pretty scary, riding on the highway. And so we knocked pretty well everything around us. And so that was kind of a bummer. I feel like we weren't maybe as effective because we didn't have the car. Like a wild pig just ruined it for us. So that was like my first experience getting to Leesburg. But definitely a lot of just kind of a more country people. And we saw a lot of Confederate flags in that area, kind of random. But just definitely kind of more the redneck part of Florida, at least in the Orlando mission. But I had some really good companions. We got to know the members super well. We had the same ward mission leader the whole time I was there. And I'm pretty sure he was in his 90s. Super old guy. And he was the funniest guy I think I've ever met. His driving was really bad. So we prayed every time that we went out with him. But it is super fun. I love that area, and I actually struggled with it for a long time. I felt like I was there longer than I wanted to be there. But we just kept working hard and saw a lot of cool stuff happen. A lot of them, like we got to know basically all of the members, at least I did, really well because of how long I was there. And so just going to church was super cool. All the members knew us and knew our names, where we were from, everything about us. So I felt like I was at home in that area. When I had first gotten there, the companion that introduced me to the area, we were going to an appointment, somebody that they had met previously, and she ended up not being interested at all. They were a cute little family, a little son, and we saw, I wish that they could have accepted the gospel because they would have been great, but I could tell they just weren't interested in doing anything, and so we had to move on. And then months later, we had this training on just like sticking to our plans, and like going throughout the whole day and fulfilling everything that we'd written in our planners. And I was on an exchange with a brand new missionary, and I brought him to my area. And so we had a really good planning session, especially because I was trying to help teach this younger missionary. how to plan really well and stick to our plans. And so we planned out this incredible day. And in the morning, it's like everything fell through. And I was like, I had like these backups and like, or we can just move to our next plans. But something in my head just like told me that we needed to go back to this girl that we had tried teaching so long ago. And I was like, there's no point. Like, she definitely isn't interested. There's like no reason. We have other plans that we need to get to. But definitely the prompting came, and I was like, everything else has fallen through. We should probably trust the Lord. Our plans aren't going well. And so we went to this house. I had no idea what to expect, but we knock on the door, and a different guy answered than the people that had lived there before. And so I asked if the previous owners were home or if they still lived there. And he's like, no, they moved just a couple weeks ago. And I was like, oh, well, bummer. And I was like, oh, I'm still a missionary. I was like, okay, well, we are missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he looked at us and he said, yeah, I know. He said, I'm a member. He told us his name. They had just barely moved down there. Him and his wife, she was a non-member. They had 2 kids. We got to meet the wife. And we began teaching them. And right before I left that area, she was baptized. It was just a super powerful experience for me. Like, that family was prepared. They were expecting a little girl that was born right about the time I got home from my mission. But it was cool to see. Like, I really did struggle in that area for a while, just with actual missionary success. But we just tried our best. We did what we could. And even this day where we were supposed to stick to our plans and things were falling through and it just seemed like a mess, the Lord directed us to this family that was ready for the gospel, and their lives are so much different now, and so it was a huge blessing.